This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Danilo's free, and it goes to Gibbons wide.
First time we've seen them attack them, and there's Brandon! Well, that's what I wanted to see Robinson do. Taylor, one, he scores! And the City ground goes ballistic! Here's Bob Williams. He's through here! And in the end, Forrest will say it doesn't matter how you play as long as you win it. Yeah! Forrest Premier League!
Hello and welcome to this preview edition of Red Side of Trent, where we've just about gotten over Saturday's events. I'll say just about. But we now look ahead to Sunday's fixture against Liverpool, where the Reds go to Anfield, a place they haven't won in about 40 years. I'm delighted to be joined by John Gibbons from the Anfield Wrap. So thank you very much for joining, John. The last time I saw you in the flesh, we took part in the Upload United versus the Wolves fancast game at Molineux, in which we ran out 2-1 victors. And I just remember John coming on at half time and Fago's hand just spraying it like a hose pipe from I remember the boys went to you, it just found feet on the flags every time. It was so good. But yeah, many thanks for joining us. I trust you're well.
Yeah, really good. I mean, always happy to relive a great victory as well. So thanks for bringing it up. We could do 20 minutes on that if Adam wants, but yeah, no, it was a good day. But yeah, no, real pleasure to be on. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know, we've not actually spoken about it that much on our pod, or how we sort of. I think it's because I gave a penalty away. I've not really mentioned it too much.
You didn't mention that. You definitely did mention that.
It was a real home decision, that though. I tell you, honestly, if Liverpool get one of them on Sunday, I'll be made up. I tell you what. Yeah.
Oh, dear me. Well, thanks for making me feel better about it anyway. But first and foremost, it's been a pretty good start for Liverpool this season, albeit a sort of not indifferent ones in the sense it's not been your characteristic, like, okay, right, we're laying down a gauntlet sort of thing. You've gone behind quite a lot and come back a lot to win games. How do you feel the start so far this season, John?
Yeah, generally really positive. We obviously made a lot of changes in the summer that's been fairly well documented. A whole midfield out and in, which is quite unusual and I've never really sort of known before. At Liverpool or many other places, and so we expected there to be a few teething problems and a few, times where we maybe didn't look as slick and like you said before, we know that a Liverpool team can be. But considering, all the changes and the fact that there are, so many new players in the middle of the park, we're really pleased with the points total, with the spirit being shown, the togetherness that they seem to have, and there seems to be a real appetite amongst the squad to build a new team and to build something kind of fresh and exciting together. So it's fun. I think a lot of the teams in the Premier League seem to be enjoying it this season, which is as it should be, really, isn't it? And, it does feel like we're on a bit of an adventure. We don't know where it's going to take us. But last time it took us, all the way to Champions of the World. So, it feels like it's possible. You never know. And so, yeah, it's exciting. It's good. And I think it's fair to say we're probably ahead of schedule in terms of where we expect it to be.
It's quite a big transitional period, I'd say, John, especially like you said, mentioned midfield. I mean, you brought in Wataru Endo to replace Hendo. And obviously Gravenberch coming with a big reputation, though he didn't quite hit the heights at Bayern Munich by the looks of it. Was you a bit disappointed you didn't manage to get that holding midfielder like you was after pretty much for the whole summer? Because obviously Moises Caicedo ended up going to Chelsea for what seemed to be a massive fee, in my opinion, a bit too over the top for my liking.
Yeah, I mean, it was an extraordinary amount of money in the end, wasn't it? And fair play to Brighton, who are great sellers and got every ounce out of him that they could. I think if you'd have asked Liverpool fans at the end of the window whether they were happy with what we'd done, I think most would say yes, sort of 7 or 8 out of 10. But I think the two that we were maybe felt like we might be short was maybe a defender light, and then exactly what you've just said, Adam, which is the holding midfielder. Endo's come in. He's not played a huge amount. He I'll be shocked if he even gets on the pitch against you guys. He's much more likely to play in the Europa League game on Thursday night, and then yeah, so he's one who Klopp sort of got in as the one specialist, and then now isn't too sure about him. We're playing Alexis McAllister there at the moment, who is a good footballer and is doing okay, but in certain games he is struggling a little bit with the fact that he isn't a natural in that position, and that's interestingly on and off the ball as well. He's struggling a little bit. There's the great centre halves. Sorry, the great centre midfielders know where to take it off the centre halves and drop deep and pop it off, and they make it look so easy, don't you? You watch it thinking I could do that until you don't have one, and then you sort of realise it isn't quite as easy. He's not quite got that sort of instinct, so he's making it a little bit harder for some of his defenders. And we saw that the opening goal against Brighton, where he's it's not a great pass to him, but he just doesn't quite sort of anticipate it or come for it like maybe a Casado would have, and so that's. Is the sort of one thing. The defensive issues so far have done okay because Joel Matip's playing really well, and we'd sort of written him off a little bit, as you do sometimes, and thought, oh, he's past his best, and he is, his better years are behind him, but he's having a bit of a renaissance. Also, Joe Gomez is having a really good season. He was one we were starting to worry about in terms of would he, is he out? We've all seen players who've had too many injuries and never quite sort of get it back, whereas he's having a good season as well. So defensively, they're looking pretty good. And there's a young lad Quanta as well, who you might have seen little bits of, who's played really well. And I think the confidence in him that they showed in the summer, we're not getting another one in, is being justified as well. So this is a sort of a long way of saying of the two concerns that Liverpool had going into the season. The defensive side, looks like we are going to be all right, but the defensive midfield, certainly in certain games, there's still a bit of a question mark.
I suppose that, you're right. It does seem that's the impression we get, that Liverpool generally seem okay, but slight vulnerable. I suppose that's emphasised by the fact that in 5 games this season, Liverpool have actually gone behind. But I suppose the caveat of that is that out of those 5 games, you've claimed 10 points. You've won 3 of those games and drawn the other. So, which is remarkable. And one of those being at Newcastle as well, which, very few teams will have a good day at St James's Park this season. So does that more down to the mentality that you think Klopp's got there? Or is it just a case of it was something slightly different this season that maybe wasn't there last year? What do you think sort of explains that sort of resilience, if you like?
Yeah, it's a good question, mate. I think one of the big things is just the attacking options that we've got. And unfortunately for you guys, I think we're going to have all 5 of the superstars available this weekend, because Cody Gakpo's back now. And so when you can start, for example, Gakpo, Diaz and Salah, and then you can bring Nunes and Jota off the bench, it's a phenomenal range of options that, we've never really had we've had some incredible forwards, but in terms of 5 who can all make a really good argument to start, and not just at Liverpool but at almost any club, really is really nice. And so I think that firepower off the bench is something that can change games, really. And we saw that. You mentioned the Newcastle game there. Christian Darwin Núñez comes off the bench. He scores twice and we win the game. And that's something that not every football club is fortunate to have, really. And we've sort of front loaded our squad a little bit, and maybe that's why we're conceding early as well, because that's where we've chosen to prioritise the spending. But listen, you'd rather win 3-1 than 1-0, because you just get to cheer more, don't you? And that's what we're doing at the moment. And so I think there's probably other things. You mentioned the spirit, and I think once you do it once as well, you sort of believe it, don't you? You think, and it can work both ways. That if you throw a couple of leads away, then it is in the back of your mind. Whereas if you come from behind, you think, oh, we can do it now. And I'm sure we've all had ones watching our team where you don't come from behind for ages, and you go 1-0 down, and you're like, oh, that's it. And that probably goes on to the pitch as well. Whereas now, we don't want to go 1-0 down against you guys on Sunday, but if we do, there won't be panic stations, and there'll be relief that we can get back into the game as long as there's enough time to do so.
I wouldn't panic about that, John. We're masters of our own downfall, as you've seen at the weekend. But hopefully we're not making that kind of mistake this week. I did want to ask you about Mo Salah, because obviously he had a massive interest from the Saudi league, and you had a big offer on the table from a Liverpool fan's perspective. How tempted would you have been to take that, and how glad are you that he's staying, because he's obviously playing tremendously well from a goal scoring perspective. I mean, I don't watch him week in, week out, but he's obviously a very, very talented player. But do you think they'll revisit that back in maybe January or in the summer?
Yeah, I think they will, to be honest with you. I think the big thing with the Salah offer was just how late it came, and it comes so late in the window, and it's hard enough to get these deals done, when you've got all summer in terms of players in. I mean, and they're never simple as what you want it to be. And I'm sure your fans are the same as ours, where you're like, just pay the money and get it done. But it's not as simple as that when you see these players. And I think the idea of there's only so many players in the world that can replace Mo Salah. And listen, you can do it in different ways, can't you? You can replace him with another superstar, or you can, get a player who's maybe the developing player, and then improve the squad elsewhere. And Liverpool have done both in the past when we've sold big with varying degrees of success. I mean, when we sold Phil Coutinho, we bought Virgil van Dijk and Alisson Becker, and they're complete opposite ends of the pitch, but it went very well for us. Whereas when we sold Luis Suarez, we signed a bunch of players who you probably not heard of now, because they didn't do anything. Apart from Mickey Lambert, who's now completely lost his head on Twitter. And so where was I? Oh, but either way, there just wasn't enough time, really. And I think Liverpool do like to plan, and they do like to. I mean, this summer was a little bit, here, there, and everywhere with a temporary sporting director. But I think most people just felt like, whether it had gone to 100 or 120 or 150 million pounds, if you can't spend it, then it's just money in the bank, really, isn't it? And as fans, you'd rather see the money on the pitch and the talents on the pitch. So I think what'll be interesting for him is, from what I gather, sort of he was pretty keen on the move in the summer, whereas now, he might be looking at it and thinking, actually, this team looks ready to win again to me, and I do want to, turn my back on that to go to a league that, isn't as renowned right now, is obviously developing, but we're seeing some of the crowds and things, and I'm sure a lot of people will go watch Mo, but I won't be surprised if he's having second thoughts. And then if he's having second thoughts, then I think the club will be wise to act on that quickly. He's only got one more year left after this summer, so it feels like next summer needs to be decision time for everyone, really, because you won't necessarily want him to go on a free when some of the transfer fees are being talked, because it is a club. We are a wealthy club, Liverpool, but they are a club that likes to be self-sustained and sell at good times and reinvest and stuff like that, and that's how they've had success. And so, I think it's a big summer, but the better the team can do on the pitch, I think the better for everyone, and the more chance it is to stay. Because I just think, although is he 31 now or 32, one of those, but he looks like one of those who will go to 36, 37, just because he's in such good condition, that I think, the idea of, don't give them a big contract when they're over 30, I think doesn't really kind of necessarily kind of count for someone like him who looks like he's got Ronaldo years in him.
No, I would agree with that. I also thought that it. Obviously, we've seen it now with how Salah's performing this season. I think he wasn't like his form and nosedived. Like, I think there's a good chance the money that the Saudis were offering in the summer, even with the year less in the contract, they'll probably be offering that again next summer, purely because of how he's performing. So it kind of made sense, I suppose, in that aspect, to keep him, especially being it so late in the window. But one player he did get done, which kind of went a little bit under the radar, was Dominic Szoboszlai, or I think it's Szoboszlai. We'll go with that.
We'll go with Wi-Fi password.
Mate, honestly, I thought you nailed it the first time, and then you doubted yourself.
We'll go with
that penalty away.
He has been pretty tremendous, and I know, like, we as fans are very quick to sort of over-exaggerate people. I know the Steven Gerrard comparisons are never that far away with any central midfield, especially one wearing a number 8 shirt at Liverpool as well. But he does seem he might be in a position to at least lace Gerrard's boots on how he's performed so far. How do you think?
I can't believe how good he is, mate. Honestly, it's like it's really taken us all by surprise because I hadn't seen much of him at all next to Little. I think because he's because of the national team he plays for as well. He's not necessarily in UI. I don't watch huge amounts of German football. But even when we were, we do what I'm sure you guys do is when you sign a player, you get, people on who've seen him. And I spoke to a couple of German journalists and they were like, yeah, he's a really good player, but I'm not sure about the fee and stuff like that. And so we thought we were getting a bit of a rough diamond, really, who would who would show something, but take a little bit of time. And I mean, I'm not seeing a lot of rough, is what I'd say. And he's a phenomenal footballer. He's technically excellent. Physically gets about the pitch so well. His shot is Gerrard-esque, in terms of how well he can hit a ball, and he looks like one who, if he can stay focused and stay humble and keep, growing and learning, who could be. Yeah, he could be our best player. He is that good, and he could go on to sort of be that, really. And I'm so pleasantly surprised because, like I said, from all I'd sort of seen and the fact that I didn't know too much about him, but what people had told me, I thought he'd be someone who grew into the season and was maybe sort of be pretty good this year, but hopefully much better in the future. And instead, he's a fantastic footballer who looks like he's got it all in terms of creativity as well as what he can do, hitting the ball and off the ball as well. He's putting everything in. He's a pressing monster, and so we're delighted we got him. It's just sometimes it happens, doesn't it? You get one in, and then a week later you're like, how do we get a free run at this guy? And he's been one of those. He's of all the positives this season, he's right at the top.
I'm really looking forward to our midfield battle on Sunday. To be fair, John, there's a fair few athletic midfielders in that central area, so I think that'll be a key one. But we'll get onto that a bit more. I did want to ask you about your result against Everton. Obviously, it's always pleasing to get a result over your neighbours, though. I think you would have won without the controversial nature of what happened with Canate. Did Everton kind of frustrated you a lot? Would you say? How do you see that game as a fan?
Yeah, they did. I think, although they'd have wanted to obviously stay on 11, I think once it went to 11, it sort of made a decision for them how they're going to play the rest of the game, and they defended very deep, and it is tricky. I mean, we've played with 10 quite a lot this season and had success. I mentioned the Newcastle game, but it's not the only one. We went down to 10 quite early against Bournemouth and end up sort of winning from that position. And I think sometimes it is tricky for the opposition, and we were on the other side of that. But we found a way eventually, and the half-12s after an international break are never you never get scintillating football, unfortunately, and it, the fact that it was a Merseyside derby as well, it just felt like one to get through, and we did. And I don't think it's necessarily going to be one that's going to be easy to remember in a few years' time. You're going to look at it and think, what happened in that game? And the answer was not a lot. I thought Branthwaite was excellent for Everton. That was one of the best centre-half displays I've seen from anyone coming to Anfield in a long time. So they look like they've got a real player there, and he was determined to keep Liverpool out, and maybe would have if Michael Keane hadn't flapped his arms about. But I think it was just hard, and it was a bit of a crap game, and we won, and there's not loads more to sort of say about it from a Liverpool point of view. Obviously, they've had quite a lot to say about it from theirs.
We sort of said in our pod preview, actually, and maybe might be some sort of inspiration to take from Everton in terms of just flooding the box, our own box, even hoping for the best. But I don't think that will happen, because I'm obviously just going from our games last season. I mean, they were quite. It's just mental to say that our aggregate score last season was 3-3 with Forest and Liverpool. I mean, that in itself is crazy. Scoring 2 goals for us is crazy, having had such a terrible away record and what was proved to be a massive ding-dong of a game last year. I mean, from what did you take from those 2 games last season, and like how do you think this one is going to go? Do you think it'll be a similar sort of pattern, or do you think there might be slightly different some rounds?
I thought you guys were great at Anfield. I was really impressed. I think that I wouldn't look too much into the game at the City Ground, because I think we were sort of just struggling at that point, and that was a one of many sort of poured away performances. And so, I'm not necessarily thinking about that game too much going into this, especially because we're at home. But also, I feel like we've moved on, thankfully, from that Liverpool team. Sort of very thankfully. But the Anfield game, I think, should be on the players' minds, because we went 2-0 up in that game and we're looking good and relatively comfortable. And then you guys came back into it. And I watched your game against Arsenal first weekend, and when I saw that, I thought, oh yeah, they could still do that then. Do you know what I mean? It was a similar sort of performance, really, for me. It was like, hang in the game when you need to, because you're playing against a good team. But then when you've got opportunities to break, and I think then hit them and have the confidence to do it. And I think that's to be admired, really, because I think having the confidence to know when the home team is looking a bit tired or leggy or wobbly, and think, right, we're going to try and hit them now with everything that we've got. I think not every team would do. And so I really enjoyed Forest at Anfield, and you can say that because we went on to win the game. I don't think I necessarily enjoyed it if we hadn't, but I thought I came out thinking, oh, what a good team, and what a kind of refreshing approach. We liked the manager because he was one of our boys for a while, and so everyone really liked him, and still speaks highly of him whenever we sort of speak to people in the academy and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I talked before about enjoying it, and I think, we can't all, win titles, and even Liverpool haven't won loads over the last sort of 30 years. It's just the one sort of Premier League, but we can all enjoy our football. And I went away and thinking, well, I'm sure Forest fans, are enjoying this more often than not. And so, yeah, I think that home game is something that I actually hope is in the minds a little bit, because I think if Liverpool are a great team when we've got our intensity, we've got our focus, and we play. We're not great when we sort of drop. We haven't got that thing where a team like Man City have got, where they could just sort of play at 70 or 80% and keep the ball, and nothing happens, and then they win 2-0. I think we need to be on it to look good, and we've not really got a 6 or 7 out of 10 in us. We've either got an 8 or 9 or a 5 or a 4, and sometimes within the same game. And so I think what happened last year should be a little bit of a warning to them, that if we do drop, or if we don't do our work, or we let a runner go, that you guys have got the players on the counter, including our former player who never played for us up front, to hurt us.
That's if Tyro's going to be fit into it, though. So,
is that right?
He's been injured, but been rumoured to have been seen back on the grass during international break. So hopefully Cooper's got an ace up his sleeve at least. But it's funny because that game at Anfield, John, was a bit of a catalyst for Forest in terms of actually believing in ourselves. I mean, scoring 2 goals away from home and actually giving Liverpool a bit of a run for their money, because it was a game of crap defending. In all honesty, I think you score from 3 set pieces. So, and that was like something where you kind of for Forest, it's like defend both your boxes in those instances, rather than what normally was happening, which was where we was getting just ripped apart by every team away. So I think Forest fans will go in, I wouldn't say completely confident, but confident in knowing that we can go and hurt teams this season, because we've done it away from home a lot better than we have done at home, which is weird to say. I think Christian would have probably agree with me that we've gone to Arsenal and gave them a bit of a worry, went to Man United, gave them a worry, Man City, we rattled them by getting Rodri sent off. So, and we went and beat Chelsea. So it's going to be a fascinating game. But where do you see Liverpool's weaknesses in terms so Forest can maybe really hurt you a little bit?
Yeah, I think on the break, because how strong you guys are in at that aspect of the game, and for us, I mentioned before, we haven't really got an out and out defensive midfielder, and sometimes just that player who's sort of wise to that situation, able to sort of snuff something out. My favourite was Javier Mascherano, who we're going back a fair way now for a couple of young lads on this with me, but he was. Sometimes, a team will be breaking against us and you think, oh no, and he just sort of come out of nowhere and scuddy across and knock it out for the throw-in and then get yourself set. We haven't really got that sort of player. There's also, obviously the stuff we're doing with Trent at the moment and the fact that, there was always space behind Trent anyway because he's very sort of forward thinking. But now with him stepping into midfield, if we get hit in transition, there's obviously space there as well. And then you relying on your right side, the defender, be that Canate or Matip to sort of cover. And so we are a team that gives opposition a little bit of hope, I think, and a little bit of encouragement, just by how we set up and how high we defend and the fact that, like I said before, it isn't quite right yet. So sometimes, we'll have 5 minutes where we're just, giving the ball away because they're not quite on each other's wavelength already. We haven't dominated many games this season. And when you don't do that, I think the best we've played was probably Villa at home. We beat them 3-0. Aside from that, we've had a lot of funny games, like I say, loads of red cards. And, in games like that, they sort of end up being a bit hard to analyse, really, because it's so kind of match impacting. But, I'd say we've been in every game this season, but also with the exception of maybe that Villa one, the opposition have as well. And even, you look at sort of West Ham, who came to Anfield and we won 3-1. A lot of teams are going away thinking, yeah, but if we'd have put that chance away, it could have been different and things like that. And quite justified. I mean, we all do that as football fans. If only this one would have gone in, we all kind of do that, but we are giving, I'd say, the opposition supporter base and teams the opportunities to have that. And so basically I'm saying Forest will get a couple of chances and I'll be shocked if you don't, and it's just kind of whether you take them or not. But the nice thing about our forward line, with it being the way it is that if it turns into a straight shootout with the team, we just sort of back ourselves to score more, and that's pretty much how it's gone this year.
I'm very genuinely intrigued. I think, as you sort of mentioned earlier, Adam sort of touched upon earlier, I think we've actually played better in the games where we've had better teams to play against, which sounds so bizarre, doesn't it? You think but I think obviously it takes a long time and a lot of coaching and players to sort of get to a point where you sort of transition from a deeper defensive team into one that can dominate. But I know obviously that these stats are largely meaningless because it's different players, different managers, different teams, etc. But Forest haven't won at Anfield since 19. Yeah, I just had it here. It's gone down. I think it's 1967.
Wow.
So it's a very long time since we won at Anfield, which is amazing to think that Brian Clough ever won there. You would, yeah. But yeah, I'm just generally just looking forward to the game. To us, I think it's not quite a free hit for us because obviously had we beaten Luton, it might have been seen in a different light. But it's seen as something that we might need to get something. So I do wonder if that plays into our sort of thoughts, if you like. But if I could get a prediction from you for Sunday's game, what would you reckon it'll be?
Yeah, I think we'll win. I think we're 6 from 6 this year as a time of recording. We've got another home game tomorrow, so hopefully be 7 from 7. And they are looking good at home, and that stretches back to a while. It'll actually be a year to the day since we last lost a home game at Anfield in the Premier League. We've lost 1 or 2 cup games, I think, in that time. But in terms of the Premier League, it will be a year to the day on Sunday since we last lost. But that was Leeds United at home, so they got relegated. So it shows. I guess it shows anything can happen. But I think maybe a year to the days at home, but I don't know. Maybe that's something that'll come to roost. But I just feel with our strength at home at the moment, we should have too much. So I'm going to go for 3-1. But I think it will be a tough game. And like you say, Christian, in terms of how you've played well this season, how you've set up, I think we can't necessarily look at the league table and say, oh, Forest are there, we're here. We'll sort of turn them over because you guys have performed well. And I remember watching your game against Burnley at home, and I thought you really struggled. And watching that, and Burnley obviously caused you a lot of problems. But the game's going to be completely different. And so you can't say, well, they didn't play very well against Burnley because the game, those are still Chelsea ones that you mentioned before, City, are United, where you obviously got robbed, are the more of the outliers for us. So I think we have to be careful and respectful, but I think hopefully we'll have too much.
Yeah, I think I went for 2-0 Liverpool, and it was 1969 the last time we won at Anfield. But hopefully that isn't an omen about it being a year today, because please end up going down. I don't want that.
Yeah, you don't want it exactly. Yeah, you don't want it exactly. I mean, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Don't worry.
I'm more annoyed it's not a 12:30 kickoff, because my friend read me a stat out that you've played 13 games 12:30 kickoffs since Klopp's been manager or something, and that was the first time you won one last weekend. So that's like a bewildering stat to hear. So I'm a bit disappointed that's not happened.
Yeah, hopefully 2:00 Sunday's a little bit nicer for all of us.
Definitely. Yeah, a bit of a layoff after the Toulouse inevitable victory tomorrow. But anyway, thank you so much for your time, John. I really do appreciate you coming on.
Pleasure.
Yeah, are you going to the game at all? Or
yeah, I've got season tickets, so yeah, I'll be there.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I hope it's a good game to watch. I even hope it's like last year, it'd be a good game to watch regardless. But just in case some of our followers, if they want a bit of a shout out to you, how you're doing. So what are your Twitter handles, if you could share them?
Yeah, we've got the company is the Anfield Wrap. That's Wrap with a W. We put a free Premier League show out every Friday. If people want to look out for that, called the Friday Show, which is available, whenever you get your podcast. I think that's what they say. So, we do a Liverpool specific show on a Monday, although obviously next Monday we'll be looking back to this game if anyone's interested in Liverpool perspective. But on Friday we'll be looking, and every Friday we look at the whole Premier League with different fans sort of on as well. Maybe one of you guys in the future, you can, if you talk about my midfield performance, you can come on every week. And we're really proud of that show. So if people want to listen to that on Friday and in the future, they're more than welcome. And I am John Gibbons' blog.
Nice one. Cheers, John. Much appreciated. And I say good luck for the game, but yeah, it is what it is. Dog in this league.
We need a strong referee to send off Ibrahim Konate when he commits 2 yellow card offences. Okay.
I don't think he's going to tackle anyone for the fortnight after last week.
Well, he wanted to wrestle Tyrell Wunye last season. Let's hope for more of that.
But no, massive thank you again, John. Enjoy the game and come on, your Reds.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.